Hello, viewers at home. This is Hallyu Like That, a show about all things Korean wave, which is what Hallyu means in English, by us three Korean American Gen Xers. Today's episode, we are going to discuss Blackpink and their use of Phrygian Mode. So the title of our show is called Blackpink, Queens of Phrygia, ? And if you're wondering what Phrygia is, it's a magical land that produces hot Korean women who can dance and sing.
Oh my gosh, no.
And I believe not only is Blackpink born there and immigrated to Korea, but I believe that Hyuna was born there, and I believe that aespa might have been born there, and a whole mess of like these like really skinny hot bitches come from that land, and they get recruited to the trainee program by these like big top companies, right?
Or maybe you mean bitches in the Korean sense, which is Pete means light.
Exactly. Of course I do. And of course I would never call these amazing, like talented artists bitches. I mean that they are like, that group liked some, right, Richard?
Yeah, which is the sum of light and some. But anyway, they're the ultimate bitches.
They are the ultimate bitches. But strangely, I don't think they came from Phrygia though. But anyway, so Phrygia is not a real place. I'm just joking around. Phrygia is just a slang term that we made up for the use of a scale, a musical scale called the Phrygian Mode. And there are plenty of YouTube videos about the use of what a Phrygian mode is and how it has been exploited heavily in K-pop music. But we thought we would discuss it as it pertains to Blackpink, because we believe that A, they are one of the groups that have used it, A, the most, B, to an incredible degree of success, and 3, they just dropped their new album, and boom, Baya, it came out right in their first song. And boom, Baya, by the way, it's also like right away Pink Venom, bam. So Donna, our resident academic in music, also was a classically trained pianist. It's not obvious by looking at me, I'm a classically trained violinist. I was first chair violin at Santiago Elementary School. So for all those of you two-set violin fans out there, watch out, new player in town. So, so Donna, could you give us a quick, brief tutorial on what is the Phrygian mode? You have your piano there, and you can maybe play us a scale so people who have no clue what that is knows what it sounds like.
Okay, yeah, it's a little complicated, but basically, if you have a piano handy, the easiest way to understand what a Phrygian mode is the scale using the white keys from E to E. So
all right, so now we know what a Phrygian scale in E sounds like.
So it sounds a little minorish, but another thing that we've noticed too is that there's something called the Phrygian dominant, which sounds even more exotic, which would have this sort of sound to it. Sorry.
That's what I know. That's what I hear all the time in K-pop. And also, actually, to be honest with you, I've heard it throughout my life listening to Western pop music.
Yeah, I mean, it's super common. It's also, something that is used among a lot of, Eastern European, like the Romani people, the Roma, and also Jewish. The Jewish scales too have some of this flavor as well. So
right. So like, for example, I think you just did that scale in E, and it sounded to me like what I remember the exact key for Show Me Your Booty Hole by Seosin, where they're like, ding, 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 ding. Like, here, I'll play it right now.
Show me your booty hole. Show me your booty hole. Show me your booty hole. Walk up in the club like
but they use this little sample of somebody playing what goes nee, 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 on what maybe sounds like a, I don't know, mandolin, or it's probably just a synthesizer, but you know, like nobody's like calling them the kings of Phrygia, or nobody like seems to you know, Nirvana has used that a lot. They have this very dark sound and at times used it, and it added to his dissonant style that everybody identifies immediately with Nirvana. And it's like, you know, back in the 90s, it just jumped out at everybody and they spawned the whole grunge rock. But
I mean, I don't think anybody is calling them the queens of Phrygia except for us.
Yeah.
Blackpink.
Blackpink,
Okay, well,
yeah.
maybe, you know what? Nobody's calling them the queens of Phrygia because that term, we coined that phrase. But I mean, we've never told anybody that phrase until now outside of us. I do believe that there have been plenty of people who have remarked upon it, especially, I mean, all you have to do is go onto YouTube and do a quick search and you'll see that there are critics, people who believe that not only Blackpink, but many other artists in the K-pop industry, they're not criticizing them for using the mode. They're more criticizing them for what they are calling cultural appropriation.
Or maybe what be more specific is cultural exoticization. And it's interesting because, you know, they're trying to come up with this exotic sound, and you'd think that they would come up with a scale that's a Korean scale, or maybe like a pentatonic mode that sounds Asian somehow, because there's plenty of them. But for some weird reason, to create this exotic sound, they've chosen this Phrygian scale that is actually more, it's geographically not correct or whatever. So anyway, it's just it's an interesting phenomenon.
Blackpink's new song, Pink Venom, dropped all of like, what, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, max?
Mhm.
And like, right from the beginning, it starts off with a Korean traditional instrument. Did you learn it, Donna?
Dun, 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 dun.
Right. One of them is playing it on a, what's the name of that Korean instrument, Donna?
It's a komungo.
Right. Not only is Donna classically trained on the piano and went to Oberlin for your undergraduate degree, you also teach traditional Korean music. You know more about traditional Korean music than you do about K-pop.
Yeah, I mean, among the Kugak or Korean music circles, I mean, a lot of people were super excited to see Jisoo playing the komungo from the very beginning. At the same time, we're disappointed because it didn't sound like a real komungo. I think it actually was, but just the way it's processed through the pop filters, it didn't sound, it didn't quite have that, you know.
It sounded more like a Middle Eastern instrument. It sounded more like a, what's that thing called? It's called the
Oud.
Oud. It sounds like an oud more than a Korean instrument.
Yeah.
Thankfully, due to the music video, we can see the Korean musical instrument being played with a little stick and all that.
Yeah.
And then like within 15 seconds or 5 seconds into the song, that thing disappears and we go straight back into like
Phrygia land.
We got an express one-way ticket back to Phrygia. And like,
so what is Phrygian about Pink Venom?
The mode, I guess, is in a Phrygian. So,
yeah.
But it's in that Phrygian dominant, the more exotic-y sounding.
So I didn't learn Pink Venom's, Blackpink's Pink Venom, but I did spend a little time, and because we're claiming that they didn't just do it recently, that they've been doing it from day one. Like for example, their debut album, and I'm pronouncing the T when I say debut, because I think that's the way they do it in Korea. Like having been born in the United States in Missouri and having lived here all my life and only spend a little bit of my life in Korea, I speak perfect English and I speak very little Korean. But thanks to K-pop and Hallyu, I'm learning English again. And apparently debut is not how you pronounce the word, it's debut. And so when they debuted, they had a song called Boombaya, right? Everybody knows that song, right?
Their debut was Whistle.
Oh yeah, the song was Whistle, but Whistle was on an EP that had Boombaya on it, right? And Boombaya, you know. oppa. They throw an oppa in there to, I guess, Koreanize it. But anyway, that little melody.
Oh, it sounds even more Phrygian with your
Right. And
guitar.
so like it's in like guitar to ukulele. And by the way, if I just played Boombaya on a ukulele, did I just appropriate both the Middle East and Hawaii while I was at it? Like,
Yeah.
so so and Richard, who grew up in Hawaii, did that offend you that I played?
I didn't know you grew up in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, I spent my early childhood there. Like
As a
years.
guest, one could say Richard is Hawaiian. Did that hit any nerves that you heard Phrygian Mode as it was done by Blackpink on a ukulele?
Now that you say that, I gotta think of no. No.
Do you think other Hawaiians would get offended by that? Part of my research for this show was to watch a bunch of YouTube videos on the concept of cultural appropriation and what it is and where does everybody stand on it right now. And it's obviously very controversial and there are very strong opinions both ways. I don't know if Blackpink started this whole use of the Phrygian Mode. I don't think they did, but they certainly made it so successful that I think other K-pop artists probably said, hold on a second, that Boombaya song really freaking worked. And let's do that when we do this now. But what is that song by I'm Not Cool? Hyuna's I'm Not Cool. I mean, they're like, I'm not cool. They're going for it. I mean, they're like really, I mean, you can go on YouTube and search like K-pop and being racist or whatever and stuff like that. And a lot of videos come up and a lot of people are bringing this to light that there are issues of cultural appropriation. And I guess they're straight up saying it's racist.
Well, Boombaya, I think they got called out for doing the thing, but also Hallyu Like That too also had like a Ganesha statue in the original video, and they actually took that out because of the outcry. But that's another one of their major songs that also goes into E flat dominant Phrygian in their chorus. A lot of their biggest hits are in this Phrygian sort of thing, Pink Venom, Hallyu Like That, Boombaya. And then many of their other songs are in exotic scales, whether it's harmonic minor or whatever it might be, like, Pretty Savage, doo 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 doo, what is it? Doo 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 doo, or whatever that one.
Right.
I really noticed the ooh part because when I see somebody go ooh, I don't think of Middle Eastern, although the sound immediately reminded me of what I hear from Middle Eastern music or Middle Eastern women. They make that sound to, I guess it's sort of like cheering or something like that. But like when I see that, I remember old black and white Western movies where the Native American Indians were making that hand over your mouth. So like when they did that in the song, my thinking was like, I don't think right when it came out, anybody took objection to it. It took time for people to get concerned about it. Richard, do you have any observations regarding that?
My feeling about it with Blackpink and whatever they're doing, all this stuff is I find zero offense whatsoever in any of it. Like they're just using cultural, whatever forms of music or even symbols of other cultures. It's not their own. I understand that, but we do that all the time. Artists do that all the time. I mean, do you guys know like Shakira? You guys know Shakira, right? Obviously,
yes, we do.
Shakira has this one song where she brings in these. Actually, it's the opposite. She brings in these Korean drummers. The woman who did the drumming all over.
I heard about that, but I haven't seen it.
You should watch it. So it's just I kind of feel like it's just stuck in there, but I think she likes it. She just stuck in the. Now, granted, she brings Korean women drummers, the actual drummers, and she brings them into the video. And they're kind of unaltered. So I don't know if that's cultural appropriation, but people do this. My point is that music is about using all kinds of musical art forms of many different cultures. People do this consciously and unconsciously. And I don't know, if we should get upset about these things. Now, there's clearly examples where it's offensive And I can't think of it. Maybe Donna, you can speak to that. But I mean, like, what are the standards here?
Well, I can tell you when it's offensive.
What?
When people are doing minstrel shows. You know, back in the 1900s in the United States, the minstrel acts were the most popular form of music in America by a mile. Like, it was wildly popular for a long time. I think today, even with a lot of movement away from criticism of cultural appropriation, I think a lot of people today, you know, people tend to not want to look more than 100 years into the past. And they'll cite things like, oh, you know, Elvis Presley like copied Big Mama Thornton, her song Hound Dog, you know, because if you listen to his version, it just sounds like a whiter version of her version, right? But then people dug a little deeper and said, oh, wait a minute, that song was composed by two Jewish guys. So who's appropriating who? It just keeps getting, we're a melting pot in the United States. So when we look at it from an American-centric point of view, we're looking at like up until the internet age, people were locally influenced by other people that they grew up in. Like Eminem grew up in a poor Black neighborhood. So he doesn't feel like, people don't feel like he's appropriating. They feel like he is just speaking to his experience because he had, like, you know, a lot of Koreans are adopted into families that are not anything like the way they are. They're white families in the Midwest or African-American families in LA. And like, what's that one artist that you love, Donna?
Anderson .Paak.
Anderson .Paak. They would never criticize Anderson .Paak as appropriating Black. I mean, first of all, he's part Black, but I mean, and that brings up another point. What if you're multiracial? You know, what are you allowed to use and not use? We can all sort of give examples and reasons why cultural appropriation is an outdated thing. It's not a big deal anymore. We should all just embrace it. I mean,
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, Michael Jackson used like rock music in, you know, his music. Is he appropriating? I mean, BTS used Michael Jackson style in their music. So are they appropriating Michael Jackson? Who's appropriating?
I think everything is a specific case, and you really have to look at the specific dynamics of who's appropriating who. I don't feel like there's no universal, you know, cultural appropriation is wrong or cultural appropriation is right. I think you just have to look at each individual case, who's getting the money from that situation. You know, the Elvis, you know, Lieber Stoller, Big Mama Thornton is an interesting case. I do think that Elvis gained more from that song, Hound Dog, than Big Mama Thornton. He outshined her version and made a lot more money off of it than she did, in which case I do think that there was an injustice there. But
hold on, Donna, but artists do that all the time. Like,
yeah, but it's part of a longer pattern of white artists copying off of Black artists. And I think that is a problem. And I completely.
But how do you explain like Run DMC using Aerosmith's Walk That Way and then making,
like, again, they're more on an equal playing field, so it's not as much of a problem. If you're appropriating something that's part of the majority culture, that's not a problem because it's not being forced upon you. And you know, it's, I
mean, I think your argument helps us explain why, if we went to the extent of bringing back blackface and said, hey, now that everybody's on board with cultural appropriation, we're going to do blackface again, I think it would cause a massive outcry. And I think people would intuitively say, this is offensive and we can't do it, even though we can't justify it with a logical argument. But that said, if we take the, you know, minstrelsy way over here and then Blackpink way over here, where does the line sort of like go from this is okay? Because Richard was like, this is completely okay to me. And I think the vast majority of people on the planet would listen to Boombayah and just be like, that's a fun song. Like, when are they coming into town? I want to pay $3,000 for a ticket to go see them. Because I mean, that's apparently what people are doing, you know?
And this Phrygian thing apparently is in many, many, many other musical forms. You know, like rock musicians use it, hip hop artists use it, maybe more so that it's not as obvious in your face or something.
But it's hard to really pinpoint like who's appropriating who, because I mean, it's this Phrygian, it's being used by a lot of different cultures, and it's just become so predominant in popular music culture anyway.
Can you imagine like owning Phrygian Mode that's like your intellectual property, like let's say Iraq, Iran, and they got together and they said like, hey, we're going to file a class action lawsuit so that we can now own Phrygian Mode. And if anybody uses it, we're going to get compensated for it. We're going to charge people to use our Phrygian Mode because like, obviously, United States, England, and South Korea are far more economically powerful than us, and they're exploiting us, and they're capitalizing off of our cultural capital. And it's like, so therefore, let's go to the United Nations and file a suit. And you let BTS talk here, so why don't you let us talk for a second? And we're not a big fans of this like. And oppa. I mean, just because you threw oppa into your song doesn't mean that you didn't do all this other stuff. You didn't do all this other stuff.
To add to that, couldn't you argue that they're flattering the music? I mean, they're showing respect for people do this because they like it.
Right, it's an homage.
This is spreading Middle Eastern culture or something like this. Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah,
Little Richard and other African-American rock artists, although they probably weren't thrilled that Elvis and other white artists were making 20 times or 100,000 times more money than they were, they also knew that whatever money they were making was a lot more than they would have had these white artists not embraced their culture and incorporated it into their music, and thus brought it to such a high level of popularity that they benefited significantly from that. I saw interviews where they're saying like, until they came around, our music was basically like nobody was paying attention to it.
Okay, so I mean, that's called being a better, savvier musician. So Madonna took voguing, and we know where she got that from. She got it from Black gay culture in New York, basically. And she took something that was very street, she prettied it up, she made a very slick video. She even used members of that community to help her learn, blah, blah, blah. She made, a ton of money, and that was one of her biggest hits. Can you blame her? It's called being a smart, very good entertainer.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, and the fact that she included people as part of the process, I guess, is good. But I still don't like Madonna for doing that, and she's done it to other people.
Wow,
too.
That offends you?
Okay.
Like,
oh yeah, I don't like. She did that to Japanese culture too. I mean, she has her like.
Okay, so hold on. Now we all know BTS has a song called "Permission to Dance," right? I don't know if you've seen the video. They're all dressed up in cowboy garb, cowboy hats, and then look at that with Psy and Suga. They're wearing cowboy hats. They're in a saloon. They're in a Western town. Should like rural white Americans be like, oh, this is cultural appropriation and this is like so wrong of them. How dare they like dress up as us? Like this is just as bad as your kids dressing up as Native American Indians on Halloween or at Thanksgiving. I mean, how is that any different?
White supremacy.
Okay.
Different power dynamics between the races. They have every right to say that, being offended by people dressing up like cowboys. I mean, whatever.
But hold on, nobody has complained about it. And I don't get the slightest sense that there will be any complaints about it.
Well, it's so iconic, the idea of the Western. I mean, so many people. Oh,
so iconic level changes it. Isn't like a Native American with a feather headdress iconic? I mean,
you don't have this history of genocide, with the cowboys.
So if a million cowboys died,
yeah, then it would be a different ball game for sure.
Wow.
For sure.
So it's the amount of people who died that can now stop you from dressing up as them.
Yeah.
Or using them in your music
history
video.
Of genocide or having to move from their homelands. I mean, yeah, all of that. That's all stuff that you take into consideration. I feel like everybody wants like a clear answer on it. But, one is power dynamics. You always have to take that into consideration. Number two, if somebody wants to complain about cultural appropriation, and if that's empowering for them, let them do it. I'm not going to shut them down. I mean, people need to voice their concerns about things. I'm never going to say, I'm not going to listen to you about it. If that's something that's meaningful for them and they want to give that feedback, I mean, it's great. And I think if people have criticism of Blackpink, they should do it. I mean, I think it was good in the Hallyu Like That video for them to take out the Ganesha statue. I mean, if that was something that
How did they take it out? Did they blur it out or did they reshoot the shot?
I don't know how they did that. That's a mystery because they did it in such a way, they reloaded the video, but it didn't affect their views, which is
Ooh.
really weird. So I don't know if they made some secret deal with YouTube or something.
Ooh, a secret anti-appropriation deal. Like
someday somebody's gonna have to get to the bottom of that mystery. But
Donna, so I heard what you said, but I want to offer something, a different point of view. How much of this is the power dynamics issue is just really something that the disempowered groups just have lack of self-esteem? Like, so, you know, really nobody's doing anything to us. I mean, we're just making all these things mean that we're, you know, offended somehow.
the displaced Native American Indians, that they've all passed away. I mean, we're talking about the descendants of these people, like people who are multi-generations down from there. I mean, you don't even have to go multi-generations down to get to the point where every single person who has Korean ethnic blood would only be 1 or 2 generations removed from the Japanese occupation, where there was like all kinds of oppression and stuff like that going on. I mean, Twice has 3 Japanese members in it. Should they be like banned from the group? Should they be not allowed to dance like Korean pop artists? It isn't even anything Korean because they're all dancing like African-American artists. I mean, it's just like,
and then it also is inspired by J-pop.
I oftentimes, when I think about this issue, I oftentimes think about BTS's main message that they've decided, that they've chosen, or whatever they've just settled upon imparting to the world, which is love yourself, right? I believe that's sort of like, you know, the Beatles are kind of known for all you need is love, right? That's ended after it's all said and done. The Beatles have somehow imparted this nugget of wisdom. All you need is love, and everything else kind of like concentric circles away from that with all their other songs. But BTS seems to have kind of isolated it down to love yourself. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cute little but trite statement. It's not, you know, it sounds good, but what does that really mean? But as I've analyzed it and settled with that concept, I believe that if one truly loves themselves, they're not going to feel offended.
Marry me away, hey, young K-pop dream boy overseas.
Just like how I think Norwegians are never going to be offended when they see us in Viking clothes and have Viking helmets and all that. I would venture to say we get no backlash for that. None.
I mean, you have this idea of we all contain multitudes, right? From the Walt Whitman saying, right? I think if we love ourselves in our multiplicity, I think that's a beautiful thing. And if we want to interpret BTS or K-pop in the most positive sense, I mean, I guess you can say that they are embracing hybridity. They're embracing all the different cool sonic cultural elements that are out there.
Yeah, but no blackface.
But no blackface, exactly.
No blackface.
But there's a line. But see, like, I would go so far as to say that, like, cultural appropriation was kind of more of a issue in the United States because we are this melting pot of so many different cultures, and there is this like dominant like Caucasian culture and these other cultures that would be in a weaker power position. But what I think is fascinating about how this issue has now become centered around the K-pop industry is that it's clearly become a global issue. It's no longer this American melting pot, this heterogeneous culture that we have. It used to be like whatever happened here didn't happen over there. And in a country like Korea that's so homogeneous, they just would never have these issues, or if they did, nobody cared. Now that K-pop is gone, you know, our show's called Hallyu Like That. We are focused on the concept of Hallyu, and Hallyu has gone is the whole point is that Korean entertainment has gone global. It's worldwide now. Like I said, if you want to go see Blackpink at their next tour in the United States, take out a second mortgage because it's gonna cost you a ton of money. This whole issue of cultural appropriation, it's this weird global issue now. Like, how does the globe work? How do all of us cultures in the whole world, thanks to the internet age and the speed at which everything transfers, a new K-pop song comes out, like Neon's Pop, and within 2 weeks or 1 week of that song coming out, people are they know the choreo and they're running out and dancing the song. I mean, there are covers of songs like that come out 48 hours after the song's released to the world. And they've already got costumes and dressed up, and they've already uploaded a high quality cover. I mean, that's how fast information is transferring around the world. And therefore, cultural appropriation is a byproduct of globalism and the internet, and how Hallyu is pushing the envelope in that regard.
Yeah, I have a theory about all of this, which is that if we look, 100 years down the road, I think that if the world is still here,
Phrygia will be the only surviving culture.
Yeah. I feel like K-pop and groups like Blackpink will be remembered for contributing to the, like, what I call the Esperantoism, or the Esperantoization of culture, because I think they really are pushing the envelope of like squashing languages and musical elements, and gradually the differences are disappearing, which I guess is kind of a scary thing too. But
when I watch some of these random dance play videos, I go all over the world and search all these different disparate countries, and the kids are dressed generally the same. Whether you're in Mongolia or Argentina or Ukraine or Finland or Miami or wherever you are, I see similar clothing around the world. And it used to be, when we were growing up, that clothing trends and cultural trends were very regional. But, we were fans of new wave music, and that spread around Western culture pretty quickly. But I think your point, Donna, about what the future of music and culture and multiculturalism as K-pop is influencing it is really a great way to end it. Any last words?
It's like bibimbap. It's one big mix of a lot of food, and you mix it all together in one big bowl. That's what K-pop is now.
Yummy, yum, 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 yum. Actually, I'm super hungry. I haven't eaten yet today. So now that you mention it, I wish I had some bibimbap right now.
Actually, I made bibimbap last night.
Ooh, well, there you go. Perfect.
Stream of consciousness. We're all thinking this. That's what's going on.
Collective consciousness.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
So mixing could be a good thing if done right.
That's right. That's right. I mean, if bibimbap is the flavor of bibimbap, we should say it all, right? Anyway, well, thanks for another great episode, guys. That was a lot of fun. And so see you later.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.